What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're gonna be back to work on our 1966 Ford Mustang GT. We have decided we are gonna be using this subframe right here. As you guys see in the latest video, we did do a little bit of a mock-up, but we are gonna be using it. What we're gonna do is start cutting this thing apart, and we actually have a new frame rail right here that we're gonna be welding onto it. Check that out. It's a really nice thick frame rail. I think it's gonna hold the motor really good. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's get this subframe off so we can start doing some trimming. So we got the subframe from underneath the engine. Now we're gonna go ahead and get these engine mounts off right here because the new frame rail is actually going to go right under here, basically like this. So we have to do a lot of trimming under there because it's basically gonna slide under there like that. So let's go ahead and get these engine mounts off and start cutting up the subframe. So now that we got both engine mounts off, and one of them is broken, so we will be getting a new one, but it is good for mock-up purposes. Now let's go ahead and fire up the plasma cutter, and we'll start cutting everything off because we don't need this suspension point right here. And check out how simple this suspension point is. It's basically just two flat plates with a hole through there. So I'm pretty sure that'll be easy to replicate, but let's go ahead and get the plasma cutter and start trimming this thing up. So we got this side all nice and trimmed up. We will be doing some more trimming with the grinder to get a nicer surface, but let's go ahead and do that side over there. So we got the subframe nice and cleaned up with the plasma cutter. Now what we need to do is get the grinder and start cleaning it up a little bit better because the plasma cutter does good cutting, but it's a little bit jagged. And what we're trying to accomplish here is get this frame rail as close as possible to this engine mount as we can. We want it to sit kind of like under there, so then we can weld this subframe to this frame rail. So let's go ahead and do some more cutting in here and cutting right here. So we got the right side nice and trimmed, as you can see right there. And also the engine mount fits back in there perfectly. Check that out. We might need to do a little bit of trimming on the engine mount right here, but it's just really slight. Now let's go ahead and get the frame rail. And this frame rail is now gonna line up really good inside right here. And then what we're gonna do is clean it up a little bit better and put some welds all through up in here. Make this thing really nice and solid. And we might also just go ahead and either put some bolts here or just go ahead and weld it all through. But let's go ahead and tackle the left side, and then we'll continue building the subframe. So we got this side nice and cut, and check that out. We also went ahead and did some trimming and cleaning up. Now let's go ahead and test the new frame rail and see how it fits up. We're also gonna go ahead and clamp it down. And check that out. Now that lines up pretty good. And we still have to do a little bit more cleaning in there to get a nice, perfect gap, but that's already weldable right there. Now let's go ahead and see the engine mount. We did actually trim it down just a little bit right there, but it also fits in there perfectly. Check that out. Now let's go ahead and finish cleaning up this side over here, and then we'll start making the complete subframe. So we got both sides nice and trimmed down, and we went ahead and grinded down the motor mount. Now the frame rail will fit in there perfectly. Now we need to start on the bottom section of the frame rail. You see here, just like the factory, they actually had a bar coming through here like this, as you can see on the factory frame rail. So what we're gonna do is go ahead and replicate that bar. It's gonna basically come like this. So we have this bar right here, and it's almost like the factory one. It's just a little bit thicker and bigger. So what we're gonna do is go ahead and start trimming all of this area up right here so we can get this bar sat in there flush. So we got the subframe all trimmed up, and now this frame rail right here fits up there perfectly. So now what we're gonna do is go ahead and put the motor mounts back on the subframe and put it back under the car, so then we can start mocking up the entire front end. So we got the subframe under the motor. Now let's go ahead and grab this level and see how everything is. And check that out. It is perfectly level. Might need to go a little bit, but we can still adjust that whenever we get the new rail on. So let's go ahead and check the other side. And this side is also perfectly level. Now we need to go ahead and start getting our frame rails prepped. But we do have a little tool that's gonna make this a lot easier. We actually picked up a bandsaw. So let's go ahead and open this thing up, and then we'll start cutting some frame rails. See what we have in the box. Check that out. That's gonna make our job a lot easier. So let's go ahead and set this thing up. So we got the bandsaw nice and set up, and now let's see, the first thing we need to cut is probably gonna be this bar right here. This is where the control arms are gonna mount onto the car. So let's go ahead, and we actually need to cut it in half because we're gonna use it for both sides. So let's go ahead and give this thing a cut. got both bottom sides nice and cut, and it's lining up pretty good. And basically what we're doing is replicating the factory subframe, kinda. As you can see, it has this bar coming down, and then it has the control arm mount right here, which is basically exactly like how we're doing it right there. So now let's go ahead and actually test fit the new frame rail and get it all lined up and see exactly where we need to cut it. So we got the first frame rail on. We went ahead and clamped it on with this clamp. Now let's go ahead and drop a level on it because we want to make sure everything is nice and level. And check that out. It might need to go up just a little bit, but now we need to go ahead and cut our other frame rails and make another frame rail for the other side. So we got the left side frame rail nice and cut. Now we're gonna go ahead and line it up and see how it fits up. So check this out, guys. We got this frame rail on right here. Everything is looking really level. Everything is looking nice and straight. We also just put this plate in the center just so we can measure like that. And that's also looking level. And we have this side over here is perfectly level. So everything is coming together pretty nice. Now I want to go ahead and just test fit this radiator right here. Make sure these rails are in the right area. Let's go ahead and see how this thing fits. Check that out. It fits right in between with just a little bit of room on each side. Now that that's done, let's go ahead and keep doing some more measurements. So we did some more measurements and everything is lining up really good on the subframe. So what we're basically doing is just building a custom frame rail built into the subframe instead of how the factory had it. As you can see, here's the part that we cut off. Here's the control arm, it just goes in there. But we probably will have to move the suspension a little bit farther forward to accommodate for the wheelbase of the Mustang. And here's the front area right here. But before we go any farther, my good friend Danny TV actually just showed up. He has a 2017 Mustang too. Here's his 2017 Ford Mustang right here. He actually rebuilt it on his channel. So if you guys want to go check out his channel, he has some pretty cool stuff over there. And check this thing out. It is supercharged in the front, man. This is sick. I was actually thinking on getting a supercharger for that Mustang over there, but I'm kind of leaning towards twin turbo. But we're going to do some measurements from the shock towers right here so we can get that perfect on that car. And we're actually going to go ahead and lift it up in the air. Some more measurements underneath. So we got the car in the air, and a big shout out to Danny TV for bringing this Mustang over. It's around 12 o'clock right now. He got up, he came over here, hooked us up, and now we're gonna go ahead and do some measurements. We need to check out the distances between both control arms right here. So let's go ahead and do some measurements. We're gonna go from here. So we got about 13.5 inches from the center of this control arm to the center of this one. All right, looking good. Then I want to check the distances like this from the bolt, from the top of the subframe to the center of the bolt. And that looks like it's 8.5 inches. And let's just continue doing some more measurements. All right, so we did some measurements, but that was kind of useless because we are gonna get to keep the car overnight. So that's gonna be nice when we can just start working on the control arms right now. So let's go ahead and lower this car down and get back to work on the 66. All right, so now that we have all the measurements from that car, we need to go ahead and start making the brackets for the control arms. And it turns out this piece of metal that we picked up from the steel store actually slides in there like a glove. And now all we have to do is cut 2 brackets off and put them next to each other, and that'll be the brackets for the control arms. So let's go ahead and give them a cut. So we got the first bracket cut, and check out how it's gonna sit up in here, just like that. And then we're gonna drill a hole through here and put the control arm on it. And it is a lot thicker than the factory stuff. I wanna really beef up the suspension on this thing. So let's go ahead and make 4 more of these. So we have all 4 brackets made right here. We will have to do a lot of cleanup work on them, but check that out. These are the 2 rear ones that are gonna go back here. Still have to do a lot more trimming on there, but that's gonna go like that. And then the front one's gonna go just like this. And bam, we have the control arm bracket. So let's go ahead and get that front suspension and throw it up here and see how it lines up. So we got the front suspension on here. We just threw it up here as a mock-up. And these are the brackets that we just created, and it's basically gonna go just like that, somehow like that. We are still in the design phase, so this ain't the final product, but we're getting the basic idea, because we are building everything from scratch. And then this bracket right here will just slide up under here like that, and a bolt will go right through the center of that, and basically that's the front control arm bracket. And in the rear, we have these other brackets right here, which are gonna go just like that, and then this control arm is gonna bolt onto that just like that. And that's basically gonna be just like factory. All right, guys, so that is gonna be a wrap for today's video. We basically got the entire front suspension almost there. All we have to do is weld on the brackets for the control arms right here. But we do have both frame rails installed, the radiator support, and everything's gonna line up really good up here. If you enjoyed today's video and you wanna see more content like this, go ahead and smash the subscribe button. And also don't forget to follow me on Instagram at VTune.